In the village of Umudioka, where gossip travels faster than the morning rooster's crow, Adanna's secret was about to explode. 3 days. That's all she had. 3 days before a stranger would tear apart the family she'd spent 10 years building. 3 days before her children would learn the truth she'd been hiding for 10 years. And when it did, everyone would have to answer one question. What truly makes a mother? The blood in your veins or the hands that raised you?
Fair African Tales. Subscribe and turn on the bell for new stories.
The village of Umudioka sits nestled between red earth roads and cassava farms, a place where everyone knows everyone, where gossip travels faster than the morning cock's crow, and where reputation is currency. Here, in a small mud brick house with a rusted zinc roof and faded blue shutters, lives Adanna. She is a woman of 38 years, though her eyes carry the weight of 50. Her hands are calloused from labour, her back bent slightly from years of carrying loads too heavy for one person. But her smile when it appears is warm as palm wine, and her children are her world. 3 children. Chidi, 16, tall and watchful, with Adanna's careful eyes. Ngozi, 13, soft-spoken and tender, who hums while she sweeps the compound and braids her little brother's hair. And Emeka, 9 years old, gap-toothed and giggly, who still believes the world is only as big as his mother's arms. They call her Mama. They have never called her anything else, and she has made sure of that. Every morning before the sun cracks the horizon, Adanna is already awake. She kindles the fire, boils water for pap, fries akara in a blackened pan, and wakes the children with a gentle touch. Chidi helps Emeka dress for school. Ngozi sweeps the compound while the neighbours watch and nod approvingly. A good family, they say, a devoted mother, a woman who has sacrificed everything for children that are not even, but no. No one finishes that sentence aloud, not anymore. It has been 10 years after all, 10 years since the night Adanna's younger sister, Obioma, came stumbling to her door in the rain, wild-eyed and desperate, with 3 small children clutching at her wrapper, and begged Adanna to hide them. 10 years since Obioma whispered, "Don't let him find them," and disappeared into the darkness. 10 years since Adanna made a choice that would define the rest of her life. But the village has long memories, and some questions never truly die. They simply wait. In the corner of Adanna's bedroom, beneath the bed where she sleeps alone, is a wooden box. It is old, carved with fading symbols, and locked with a brass padlock that has rusted at the edges. Inside that box are things Adanna does not look at unless the night is too long and the silence too loud. Letters written in Obioma's looping handwriting. Photographs of 2 sisters standing side by side, arms around each other, before the world turned cruel. A birth certificate, an unsigned adoption paper, a final note that reads, "You are their mother now. I am already gone." Adanna keeps the key on a string around her neck, hidden beneath her blouse, pressed against her heartbeat. The children have never asked about the box. But Chidi, sharp-eyed Chidi, has noticed. He has seen the way his mother's fingers sometimes drift to her chest when she is worried. He has seen the way she stares at the framed photograph on the shelf, the one of a woman who looks almost like her, but younger, brighter, more reckless. And he has heard the whispers, because in Umudioka nothing stays hidden forever. It begins subtly, as all unravelling things do. A stranger arrives in the village on a Wednesday morning, stepping off a bus that belches black smoke and dust. He is a man in his early 40s, well dressed in a way that makes him stand out immediately. Polished shoes. a wristwatch that catches the sunlight, a leather bag slung over his shoulder. His name is Ikenna, and he tells the village head that he is researching old land disputes for a legal firm in the city. He is polite, he is patient, and he is lying. Ikenna moves through Umudioka like smoke, asking questions that seem innocent but means lots to him. He sits with the village clerk, flipping through dusty records in the small office behind the town hall. He buys palm wine for the elders and listens as they talk about families, about tragedies, about the woman who took in her sister's children after the sister vanished without a trace. He visits the school and chats with the headmaster, inquiring about enrollment records from a decade ago. And then, one evening, he walks past Adanna's compound just as she is drawing water from the well. Their eyes meet, and in that moment, Adanna knows. She doesn't know who he is, not yet, but she knows what he represents: the past, the truth, the reckoning she has been running from. Her hands tremble as she lifts the bucket. Ikenna smiles, tips his head politely and walks on. But the damage is done. That night, Adanna cannot sleep. She paces her small room, her mind racing. Who is he? What does he know? What does he want? She checks the wooden box. The lock is intact. The key is still around her neck. But her heart refuses to slow, because she knows deep in the marrow of her bones that this is only the beginning. The next morning, she discovers the document is missing. She tears through the box, hands shaking, breath coming in short gasps. The birth certificate, the one piece of paper that proves the children are not hers by blood. Gone. She ransacks the room, looking under the bed, in the cupboard, behind the curtain. Nothing. Panic claws at her throat. Did she misplace it? Did someone take it? Did he? No. Impossible. The door was locked, the window was shut. But the paper is gone, and with it, her fragile sense of control. Adanna becomes a shadow of herself. She pulls the children closer, walks them to school and back, forbids them from speaking to strangers. Ngozi asks if everything is all right. Adanna forces a smile and says, "Of course, my child, Mama is just tired." But Chidi is not convinced. He watches his mother the way a hunter watches the forest, sensing danger in the rustling leaves. And one evening, as he returns from fetching firewood, he overhears a conversation that changes everything. Adanna is speaking with Elder Okafor, an old man who has known her since she was a girl. Their voices are low, urgent, and Chidi presses himself against the side of the house, listening. "You cannot keep this hidden forever, Adanna," the elder says. "Those children deserve to know the truth. And if that man is who I think he is, I will not let him take them." Adanna interrupts, her voice breaking. "I will not. They are mine." "But are they?" the elder asks gently. "Or have you been living a lie for so long that you have forgotten where the truth ends and the love begins?" Chidi's blood runs cold. What truth? What lie? He bursts into the compound, startling both of them, and demands to know what they are talking about. Adanna's face goes pale. She stumbles over her words, says it is nothing, just adult concerns about money, about debts. But Chidi is 16, not 6, and he knows when he is being lied to. He storms off, anger and confusion warring in his chest, and that night he begins asking questions. Quietly, carefully, and what he hears makes his world tilt. The rumours spread like wildfire. At the market, women whisper. At the bar, men speculate. At the church, the pastor's wife clucks her tongue and shakes her head. "I always knew something was off," someone says. "She took those children too easily," another adds. "Maybe the sister didn't vanish. Maybe Adanna did something." The stories grow wilder, more vicious, and with each retelling, Adanna's name is dragged further through the mud. She feels the eyes on her wherever she goes. She hears the whispers that stop when she approaches. And the children, her children, begin to hear them too. Ngozi comes home from school in tears, refusing to explain. Emeka asks why his classmates are calling him the orphan boy. And Chidi, silent and brooding, pulls away from her, building walls she cannot scale. And then Ikenna returns. It is 3 days after his first appearance. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red when he knocks on Adanna's door. She does not want to answer. She considers pretending she is not home. But the children are inside, and she will not let him speak to them without her. So she opens the door, and there he stands, no longer smiling, no longer polite. His eyes are hard, his jaw set, and in his hand is a folder thick with papers. "We need to talk," he says. Adanna's throat tightens. "I have nothing to say to you." "Then listen," Ikenna replies, and he pushes past her into the house. Chidi stands in the doorway to the back room, watching. Ngozi clutches Emeka's hand, and Ikenna sits down at the small wooden table as if he owns the place. He opens the folder. Inside are documents, official documents, legal documents, and photographs of Obioma, of the children as infants, of Adanna, younger and terrified, holding a baby she had no right to hold. "I know the truth, Adanna," Ikenna says quietly, "and I think it's time the children knew it too." Adanna's world tilts, her breath catches, and from the doorway, Chidi's voice, low and dangerous, cuts through the silence. "What truth?" Ikenna looks at him, then at Adanna, and he says the words that will destroy everything. "The truth that she is not your mother." The room goes silent. The air itself seems to freeze, and in that moment, Adanna realizes that the life she built, the love she gave, the decade of sacrifice and sleepless nights and whispered prayers, all of it is about to come crashing down. Ikenna leans back in his chair, his expression unreadable. "I am giving you 3 days, he says to Adanna. 3 days to tell them yourself, or I will do it for you, and when I do, I will take them with me, because they are not yours, they never were. He stands, he leaves, and Adanna collapses into the chair, her body shaking, her mind screaming. The children stare at her, questions burning in their eyes, fear and confusion etched into their faces. And for the first time in 10 years, Adanna has no answers, no comforting words, no way to make this right. The past has come for her, and it will not be denied. 3 days, that is all Adanna has. 72 hours to decide whether to tell the truth herself or watch a stranger rip her family apart with words sharper than any blade. But here is what Ikenna does not understand, what no outsider could ever understand. A mother who has raised children from infancy, who has sung them to sleep through fever and nightmare, who has scraped together every kobo to put food in their bellies and clothes on their backs. That mother does not surrender without a fight. And so, as Ikenna's footsteps fade into the evening dust, as the children stand frozen in confused silence, Adanna makes a decision that will set everything ablaze. She will not tell them, not yet, not ever, if she can help it. Because some truths, she believes, are more destructive than any lie. But the problem with secrets is this: once they begin to crack, they do not stop until everything shatters. That night, the house is thick with tension. Adanna moves through the rooms like a ghost, lighting the kerosene lamp with trembling hands, serving dinner that no one eats. Chidi sits at the table, his eyes boring into her, demanding answers she refuses to give. Ngozi's face is streaked with dried tears, her voice small when she asks, "Mama, what did that man mean?" And Emeka, sweet, innocent Emeka, tugs at Adanna's wrapper and whispers, "Are you really our mama?" The question breaks her. She pulls him close, pressing his head against her chest so he cannot see her face crumble, and she lies with the desperation of a drowning woman. "Of course I am, my son. Of course I am. That man is confused. He is a troublemaker from the city who does not understand our ways." But Chidi stands abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor, and his voice is cold when he speaks. "You are lying!" Adanna's head snaps up. "Chidi, I heard you, Mama. I heard you talking to Elder Okafor. I heard him say we deserve to know the truth. What truth?" The room holds its breath. Ngozi looks between them, her eyes wide. Emeka starts to cry. And Adanna, cornered and desperate, does what frightened people do. She lashes out. "You will not speak to me this way. I am your mother, and you will respect me." "But are you?" Chidi shouts back, and the words hang in the air like smoke from a fire that cannot be extinguished. The silence that follows is suffocating. Adanna wants to reach for him, to pull him into her arms the way she did when he was small and scared of thunderstorms. But Chidi steps back, his face hard, and walks out into the night. She calls after him, but he does not stop. And when she turns back to the room, she sees Ngozi staring at her as if seeing a stranger, and Emeka sobbing into his hands. And she realizes that the fracture has already begun. Sleep does not come that night. Adanna lies in her bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the house. Chidi returns hours later, slipping in through the back door, but he does not speak to her. In the room the children share, she hears Ngozi's muffled crying and Emeka's whispered questions that his sister cannot answer. And Adanna, alone in the darkness, clutches the key around her neck and prays to a God she is no longer sure is listening. "Please," she whispers, "please do not let me lose them. They are all I have. They are all I am." But prayers, as the elders say, are not always answered the way we hope. The next morning, the village wakes to gossip hotter than the sun. Ikenna, it turns out, has not been subtle. He has been asking questions at the market, showing photographs, speaking to anyone who will listen. And people talk. Oh, how they talk. At the borehole, women gather to draw water and exchange theories. "I heard he is the children's real father," one says, balancing a bucket on her head. "I heard the sister was running from him," another adds. "Maybe she stole the children, and he has come to take them back." "Or maybe," a third woman says, lowering her voice conspiratorially, "Adanna killed her sister and took the children to cover it up." The words spread like poison, seeping into every corner of Umudioka, and by midday, the story has taken on a life of its own. Adanna is no longer the selfless woman who sacrificed everything for her sister's children. She is a liar, a thief, perhaps even a murderer. And the children, walking to school with heads bowed and shoulders hunched, feel the weight of every stare, every whisper, every accusation. Chidi stops going to classes. He sits beneath the mango tree in the schoolyard, his mind churning, trying to make sense of fragments that do not fit together. He remembers his childhood, hazy and warm, full of his mother's laughter and the smell of her cooking. But now he searches those memories for cracks, for signs he missed, for proof that he was loved or proof that he was lied to, and he cannot tell which is worse. Ngozi meanwhile becomes a shadow of herself, She sits in class but does not hear the teacher. She walks home but does not see the road. And when her friends try to talk to her, she flinches as if their words are stones. As for Emeka, he does not understand why people are suddenly looking at them differently, why his mother cries when she thinks no one is watching, why his brother will not speak and his sister will not smile. All he knows is that the world has become a frightening place, and the only person who has ever made him feel safe is the very person everyone is whispering about. And then, on the second day, something happens that changes everything. Chidi, desperate for answers, goes searching. He waits until Adanna leaves for the market, then slips into her room. His heart pounds as he kneels beside her bed and pulls out the wooden box. The lock is still intact, but Chidi is not a child anymore. He knows how to pick simple locks, learned it from older boys in the village who broke into storage sheds for fun. It takes him only minutes. The lock clicks open, and inside the box he finds the pieces of a puzzle he never knew existed. Letters, dozens of them, written in a handwriting he does not recognize but addressed to my dearest Adanna. He reads them, one after another, his hands shaking. They are from Obioma, his birth mother, a woman he has never known, whose face he cannot remember, whose voice is a ghost in the back of his mind. The letters speak of fear, of a man named Ikenna who would not let her go, who hurt her, who threatened to take the children if she ever left him. They speak of desperation, of a plan to run, to hide, to start over. And the final letter, dated 10 years ago, stops Chidi's breath. Adanna, if you are reading this, then I am already gone. Dead or disappeared, it does not matter. What matters is the children. Keep them, raise them, love them. Do not let Ikenna find them. He is dangerous. He will hurt them to hurt me. You are their mother now, not because of blood, but because I am asking you to be. Please, sister, save them. Chidi reads the letter 3 times. 4, 5. His vision blurs. His chest tightens. And in that moment, everything shifts. The anger he felt toward Adanna does not disappear, but it is joined by something else. Confusion, grief, and the terrible realization that his mother, the woman he has spent 2 days hating, may have been protecting him all along. But before he can process this, before he can decide what to do with this information, he hears footsteps. Adanna has returned early. Panicked, Chidi shoves the letters back into the box, snaps the lock shut, and slides it under the bed. He stumbles out of the room just as Adanna enters the house. Their eyes meet. She knows. She sees the guilt on his face, the redness in his eyes, and she knows. Chidi, she says softly, but he cannot face her. Not yet. He pushes past her and runs. And where does Chidi run? Straight to Ikenna. The man is staying at Mama Ngozi's guest house on the edge of the village, a small building with peeling paint and a creaky veranda. Chidi finds him there, sitting in a plastic chair, drinking beer and watching the road. When Ikenna sees him, he smiles. I was wondering when you would come, he says. Chidi's fists clench. Who are you? I am the man who should have raised you, Ikenna replies. I am your father. The word lands like a blow. Father. Chidi has never had a father. Adanna told him his father died before he was born, that his mother, Obioma, he now knows, was alone and struggling, and that Adanna took them in out of love. But now Ikenna is here, claiming that title, and Chidi does not know what to believe. If you are my father, Chidi says slowly, then why did my mother run from you? Ikenna's smile fades. He sets down his beer and leans forward. Because she was sick, boy. Sick in the head. She believed things that were not true. She thought I was trying to control her, to hurt her, when all I ever did was love her and provide for her. That is not what the letters say. Ikenna's eyes narrow. What letters? The ones she wrote to Adanna, the ones where she called you dangerous. For a moment, Ikenna says nothing. Then he laughs, but it is a bitter, ugly sound. Of course she poisoned you against me. Of course. That is what liars do, Chidi. They tell stories that make them look like victims. And what is your story? Chidi demands. Why are you here? Why now after 10 years? Ikenna stands, and suddenly he is no longer the polite, well-dressed stranger. There is something cold in his eyes, something sharp. Because I have spent 10 years searching, 10 years trying to find the children Obioma stole from me, and now that I have, I am not leaving without them. Chidi takes a step back. We are not going with you. You do not have a choice, Ikenna says quietly. The law is on my side. I have proof that I am your father. Birth certificates, blood tests I had done years ago. And Adanna. She has nothing, no legal claim, no adoption papers. She is just a woman who took children that did not belong to her. She raised us, Chidi shouts. She fed us, clothed us, loved us. She lied to you, Ikenna counters. For 10 years she lied. And you're angry about that, are you not? I can see it in your eyes. You want the truth. I am offering it to you. And here is the terrible thing. Chidi is angry. He is furious. But he is also afraid. Afraid of this man who claims to be his father. Afraid of losing the only mother he has ever known. Afraid that no matter what he chooses, he will lose something irreplaceable. He turns and runs again, this time with no destination, just the desperate need to escape. He runs past the church, past the school, past the farms, until his lungs burn and his legs give out. And when he finally stops, he is at the edge of the village, where the forest begins, where the old baobab tree stands like a sentinel. He collapses against its trunk, gasping for air. And for the first time since he was a child, Chidi allows himself to cry, not quietly, not carefully, but loud, wrenching sobs that tear from his chest and echo through the trees. Because he is 16 years old, and his entire life has just been revealed as a lie, and he does not know who he is anymore. Back at the house, Adanna is unraveling. She has discovered the broken lock, has realized what Chidi found, and the terror that grips her is unlike anything she has ever known. She paces the small room, wringing her hands, muttering to herself, He knows! He knows! What do I do? What do I say? Ngozi watches from the doorway, her face pale. Mama, what is happening? And Adanna, wild-eyed and desperate, grabs her daughter by the shoulders. Listen to me, Ngozi. Whatever happens, whatever anyone tells you, you must remember that I love you. Do you understand? I love you more than my own life. You are scaring me, Ngozi whispers. Good, Adanna says, though her voice breaks. You should be scared. Because the man who came here wants to take you away. He wants to take all of you. And I will not let that happen. But even as she speaks, she knows the truth. She is losing. The village has turned against her. Her own son does not trust her. Ikenna has the law, the documents, the power. And Adanna has only love, only desperation, only the fierce, feral instinct of a mother who will burn the world down before she lets anyone harm her children. That evening, as the sun sets and the third day looms, Ikenna returns to Adanna's door. But this time, he is not alone. He has brought the village head, Elder Okafor, and 2 men from the local council. They do not knock. They enter, and Ikenna's voice is calm, final when he speaks. "Your 3 days are up, Adanna. It is time." The children are called into the room. Chidi, Ngozi, and Emeka stand together, confusion and fear written on their faces. And Ikenna, with all the authority of a man who believes he has already won, opens his folder and begins to speak. "These children," he says, "are not hers. Their mother was Obioma, her sister, who died 10 years ago, and their father," he pauses, letting the words sink in, "is me." Ngozi gasps. Emeka begins to cry. Chidi stares at Adanna, his expression unreadable. And Adanna, her worst nightmare unfolding before her eyes, does the only thing she can. She tells the truth. Not all of it. Not yet. But enough. "Yes," she says, her voice breaking. "Yes, I am not your mother by blood, but I am your mother in every way that matters. I have loved you. I have sacrificed for you. I have been there every single day of your lives. And that man," she points at Ikenna, her hand shaking, "he is the reason your mother ran. He is the reason she is dead." The room explodes. Ikenna roars in anger. The elders demand silence. The children are in shock, clutching each other, their world collapsing around them. And Adanna, tears streaming down her face, looks at her children and says the words she has been too afraid to say for 10 years. "I am sorry. I am so sorry. But I did what I had to do to keep you safe, and I would do it again." But will they forgive her? Can love survive this betrayal? And who is telling the truth? The woman who raised them or the man who claims to own them? These are the questions that hang in the air because in the end, we must ask ourselves, what makes a mother? Is it the blood that runs through the veins or the hands that wipe away the tears? Is it the biology of birth or the choice to stay when leaving would have been easier? And if a lie is told to protect, to save, to love, is it still a sin? So here we stand at the edge of the abyss where truth and love collide, where a family built on secrets must decide whether to crumble or rebuild. But before we discover what choice they make, we must ask ourselves this. If you learned that everything you believed about your life was a carefully constructed lie, could you forgive the person who lied? Or would the betrayal be too deep, the wound too raw, the trust too shattered to ever heal? The night that follows the revelation is the longest Umudioka has ever known. The house that once echoed with laughter and the smell of Adanna's cooking now sits in suffocating silence. Chidi has locked himself in the small room he shares with his siblings, refusing to speak, refusing to eat. His mind a storm of anger and confusion and grief. Ngozi sits on the floor beside Emeka, holding him as he cries, her own tears long dried up, her heart numb. And Adanna, alone in her room, kneels beside her bed with her face in her hands, praying to a God she hopes is still listening, whispering the same words over and over. "Please do not let me lose them. Please." But prayers, as we know, are answered in unexpected ways. It is Chidi who breaks first, not with words, but with action. In the darkest hour before dawn, when sleep has finally claimed his younger siblings, he rises from his mat and walks into Adanna's room. She is still awake, still kneeling, and when she sees him, her breath catches. For a moment, neither speaks. Then Chidi places something on the bed between them. The letters. Obioma's letters. "I read them," he says quietly, "all of them." Adanna's hands tremble as she picks them up, touching the paper as if it were sacred, as if it were her sister's skin. "Then you know," she whispers. "I know she was afraid," Chidi says, his voice thick. "I know she asked you to protect us, but Mama—" And the word catches in his throat, because even now, Even after everything, she is still Mama. Why did you not tell us when we were old enough to understand? And here, finally, Adanna speaks the truth she has been too afraid to voice. Because I was terrified that if you knew the truth, you would not see me as your mother anymore. That you would see me as the woman who stole you. That you would choose to leave me not because you wanted to, but because you felt you had to. Her voice breaks. I lost my sister. I could not bear to lose you too. Chidi sits down beside her, and for a long time they simply exist in the same space, breathing the same air, carrying the same pain. Then, quietly, he says, "That man, Ikenna. He told me he is our father, that he has proof, that he has rights." "He is lying," Adanna says fiercely. "Or at least he is not telling the whole truth. Yes, he is your biological father, but he was never a father to you. Your mother ran from him because he hurt her, because he was possessive and violent, and she feared for her life and yours. That is why she came to me. That is why she begged me to hide you." "Then why does he want us now?" Chidi asks. "After 10 years, why does he care?" And this, Adanna realizes, is the question that has been haunting her since Ikenna arrived. Why now? What does he truly want? Is it love? Guilt? Control? Or something darker still? The answer comes the next morning, delivered not by Ikenna, but by Elder Okafor, who arrives at dawn with a grim expression and news that changes everything. He sits with Adanna and the children, all of them gathered in the small living room, and he speaks plainly. "I have been making inquiries," the elder says, "about this man, Ikenna. And what I have learned is troubling. He is not here because he loves these children. He is here because of land. Your sister, Obioma, inherited land from your parents when they passed. Valuable land on the outskirts of the village, land that, by law, would pass to her children if she is declared legally dead. But Ikenna cannot claim it unless he has custody of the children." The room goes cold. Chidi's jaw tightens. Ngozi gasps. And Adanna feels rage. Hot and righteous flood her veins. "So he does not want them," she says slowly. "He wants their inheritance." "Exactly," Elder Okafor confirms. "And he has been manipulating the law, forging documents, presenting himself as a grieving father when in truth he is nothing more than a thief." The revelation shifts everything. Suddenly, Ikenna is not a complicated figure, not a man with a legitimate claim. He is a predator. And the children, who have spent days torn between anger at Adanna and confusion about their identity, finally understand what she has been protecting them from all along. Chidi looks at Adanna, and for the first time since the truth came out, he sees her clearly. Not as a liar, not as a thief, but as a woman who stood between them and danger, who sacrificed her own peace for their safety, who loved them so fiercely that she was willing to carry the weight of their hatred if it meant they stayed alive. "What do we do?" Ngozi asks, her voice small but steady. And Adanna, no longer afraid, no longer hiding, looks at her children and says, "We fight." The confrontation happens in the village square, in front of the entire community, because Adanna knows that the only way to defeat a man like Ikenna is to expose him in the light. Elder Okafor calls a meeting, and the people gather, curious and hungry for resolution. Ikenna arrives confident, smug, his folder of documents tucked under his arm, but he does not expect what happens next. Chidi stands and speaks. 16 years old, his voice shaking but clear, he tells the village what he has learned. About the letters, about his mother's fear, about the land. And about the man who abandoned them as infants and now wants to use them as pawns. The crowd murmurs, whispers turn to outrage. And when Elder Okafor presents the evidence he has gathered, testimonies from people in the city who knew Ikenna, records of his debts, proof that he was never a father to these children, the tide turns completely. Ikenna, cornered and exposed, tries to argue, to defend himself, but his words fall flat. The village sees him now for what he is. And when the elders declare that Adanna, who has raised these children with her own hands and heart, has more right to them than any man who shares their blood but not their love, the matter is settled. Ikenna leaves Umudioka that afternoon bitter and defeated, and the children never see him again. But the story does not end with his departure. Because the hardest part is not defeating the villain, it is healing the wounds left behind. In the days that follow, the family begins the slow, painful work of rebuilding. Adanna no longer hides the past. She tells the children about Obioma, about her laughter, her kindness, her struggles, her final act of love. She shows them photographs, reads them letters, and helps them grieve the mother they never knew. And the children, in turn, begin to understand that they were not stolen or lied to, but saved. That Adanna's deception was not cruelty, but compassion. That love, real love, is not about biology or perfection, but about showing up day after day, no matter how hard it gets. One evening, as the sun sets and the family sits together under the mango tree, Emeka climbs into Adanna's lap and asks, "Mama, will you always be our mama?" And Adanna, tears in her eyes but a smile on her lips, says, "Always, my son, always." Chidi reaches over and takes her hand. Ngozi leans her head on Adanna's shoulder, and for the first time in weeks, the house feels like home again. The story of Adanna and her children spreads through Umudioka and beyond, becoming one of those tales told under moonlight, passed from grandmother to grandchild. It is a story about sacrifice and secrets, about the lies we tell to protect the ones we love, and about the courage it takes to face the truth. But most of all, it is a story about what makes a family. Not blood, not law, but choice, love, and the willingness to fight for each other, no matter the cost. So now I ask you, dear listener, what would you have done? If you were Adanna, would you have told the truth sooner, or would you have kept the secret to protect the children you loved? And if you were Chidi, could you forgive the lie, or would the betrayal be too great? Drop your answer in the comments below. Tell me your story, because this is not just Adanna's journey, it is a question we all must answer. What does family truly mean to you? And remember, if this story moved you, if it made you think, if it reminded you of the power of love that transcends blood, then share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories that challenge, inspire, and heal. Because every story we tell, every truth we share, brings us one step closer to understanding what it means to be human. Until next time, may your choices be guided by love, and may your family, however you define it, be your greatest strength.